Okay, folks, this is Thursday, September 17th, 2020. Today is Constitution Day. Today is also Citizenship Day in honor of people who have immigrated here and become citizens. So congratulations to you if you have become a naturalized citizen. And I'll say congratulations to the rest of us who were blessed by God to have been born here. I know President Trump is speaking right now. I'm not sure where he is or what his talk is about. He was doing a great job. I was also listening. There is some kind of a conference on our national history that was being given at the White House. I think I'm watching was watching a replay of it. It was pretty much led by Hillsdale College or Hillsdale University, and I'll tell you the people they had speaking. They had a student from University of Virginia who spoke, who was so well-spoken, well-read. She's studying to be a teacher. She gave an incredible speech. And, I find so many of the political speeches to be so incredibly boring, but this one had me hanging on the edge of my seat to hear there was a professor, university professor, who was talking about Lincoln, and it was quite inspiring what he had to say. So if you get a chance to watch it, I'd recommend it. Larry. So I have kind of a sixth sense about things sometimes, and which has kept me from being in any very deadly or injurious car crashes, because I get a premonition and I slow down, and so I'm being incredibly careful and observant. Jeff, of course he is. I'll get to that in a minute. Anyhow, I felt very weepy today, and I have a couple reasons, but Larry did call, and I was hoping to hear from him as a follow-up for what we discussed last night, and he sounded, I would say, the weakest and the worst I had ever heard him speak, and I got pretty panicked there for several hours. He did call me back an hour ago. I'm waiting to hear if he's going to be able to call in. That's why I didn't change the picture, the thumbnail today, because he said he would if he could. But he saw a specialist yesterday. There's a lot of concern about the strength of the walls of his lungs. And so he's in a lot of chest pain today and really struggling to breathe. And that doesn't bode well. And then he said he got probably a 4-inch stack of bills in the mail yesterday. I have a family member who's on Medicaid. Actually, I have 2 family members on Medicaid. My disabled daughter, her bills are covered because she's on disability, and but the other relative is using Medicaid, but has horrendous copays and severe limitations on what they will cover. And so she ends up with big bills to cover for her care. And so to hear that Larry, even though he has had Medicaid available to cover his hospitalization, there's a lot that they are not covering. And so he said today he's got a stack of 4-inch high stack of medical bills. Now, I will tell you, when I visited 3 years ago and we were autographing Larry's book, Larry's autobiography for me as a co-author, I visited while we were autographing the books, and he had a 4-inch stack. Literally, I saw the stack of bills on his dining table, and he's back there again. I mean, we've worked hard over the last few years to help take care of a lot of that. and his daily needs are not what they used to be. I mean, you can imagine the money we ran through 2-3 years ago when we were spending $1,000 to $2,500 a day for the special care he was using. He hasn't been doing that lately. So Senate races and House races, you guys, we've got to make sure that we vote. And Larry has always said the primaries are the most important, because that's when we get to throw out the returning congressmen and senators, because they need to be replaced. We can't be having the same old going in. But he said this election, he has said in the past, he'd rather have a Democrat who's going to be destructive, as he knows he will be, than have a lying Republican. He said this year, this is the first time he is going against what he has always said. This year, it is imperative that we keep the Republicans in both houses. And even though they've been there for, 20, 30 years or more, it is more important to maintain the Republican Congress than it is to worry about who's a rhino. Everybody is worried. Everybody's worried about the cheating that the Democrats are doing, and the effort they are making to disrupt the elections. We definitely need great financial help, because one of the things that Larry's doctor asked him to get was a total gym. There are several different levels of total gym. Walmart sells one, but I wouldn't want to buy something for Larry at Walmart. I don't think that's something that's going to be endurable, that will be durable. The XLS is $1,000. The Total Gym Fit is $1,600. I have found a fit for $600. It's nearly new. It's a couple hours away from here. I talked to Larry about it this morning. What we were trying to do last night, now I did not call anybody, but the new ones, they will give you a 30-day trial if you pay $1 plus the tax on the full amount plus $1. So that would be about $150 here. And he was going to try to do that last night. They would not accept his PayPal, even though he has a PayPal MasterCard, they would not take that. So they take MasterCard, but they would not take his PayPal MasterCard. So he couldn't do that. And so I was supposed to try and find somebody with a credit card who could put a down payment on. Well, we got to thinking, and we thought, better to get this used one that's like new, nearly new, because it's $600, not $1,600, because he would have to be paying $200 a month then, until it's paid off. That's going to take a while. So yes, Pam, $600 is a good deal. So, and the reason to go with the better quality one is because it's got a slide that goes back and forth while you're doing your exercises. So it's more isometric than isogenic. Is that the other? Anyhow, you're using a lot of gravity, and then you can tip it little by little. Well, the XLS has a larger incremental tip. And so it's going to, the next level up is going to be quite a bit more difficult. Tony, he can't walk anymore. That's part of what's happened. He broke his hip 3 times this year. And he's had double, when you hit your head, concussions. He's had concussions on both sides of the brain. He's been fighting recently. When he was out for a week, he's fighting double pneumonia and sepsis. And so he is just hanging on by the thinnest of threads. I was crying, literally crying to the Lord today. And then, of course, I'm still waiting for Rand McNally to send me a map of the world that I can hang on my wall so I can stand there and pray for the nations of the world. And I've been trying to get this since July 3rd. And they have now, today I got the 4th one they've sent me. And every one is more damaged than the one before. Today it looked like it was a piece of toilet paper that had crumpled up and then, or paper towel crumpled up, unfolded. It was such a mess. So anyhow, so I was upset about that. And then I heard Larry's voice, and today's my disabled daughter's birthday, and I can't be with her. And I know she's not thriving. She's dealing with, I think, failure to thrive. So you can imagine that's my story. But, today's been a hard day. And to know that Larry wants to be here and he can't be, if he hasn't called in at this point, he's not going to. So I'm sorry. But the doctor suggested, because he could start slowly just pushing himself back and forth, he can move his feet a little bit, and then he can use the, it's got some kind of it's got a handle with a rope or whatever it is, to help. Tony, Larry can't walk. The issue is even standing, being able, he can sit. He's in the recliner, and most of the time he's lying down. He spent 6 months in a hospital bed. And so the atrophy in his body is horrendous. So if we can get him onto this sliding thing so he can lay there for a while and work muscles a little bit, it would be helpful. And if necessary, just even work on his arm muscles from the recliner and, turn the thing around so he can grab them and pull a little bit. So exactly. So he watched a infomercial on it last night, so he has some idea of what he can do. And so I'm going to go as soon as we're done here and look at the $600 one. Anyhow, between this plus his medical stuff, believe me, folks, anything you can do to help is greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. So, and if I know that you have donated, for every $25 you give him, I'll put your name in the pot to do a drawing for this wreath here behind me. It's made. It's got ribbon on it that says Thanksgiving and fall. It's got this brown, it's got yellow, it's got a little bit of orange. This is a cotton ribbon, and there's a lot of gold ribbon in the back around the outer edge, and so it's bright and shiny. So if you would like to have, well, that's not going to work. Go back up. If you'd like to be in the drawing for that, make sure I know. Okay, a couple other things that I saw the president tweeting about today. There's great concern about these unsolicited ballots. And President Trump was saying that this gives an opportunity for other countries to interfere in our elections when you've got all these unsolicited ballots. I mean, foreign governments can have people here with an address and be collecting these and throwing them back. And with so many of the postal workers being Democrats, we have seen the videos of them just dumping ballots and dumping mail into the garbage. And if they're going to be in charge of the election, ay. And he got a report that North Carolina, many people in North Carolina are being mailed 2 ballots. They haven't asked for any. They haven't asked them to be mailed. They're not asking for absentee ballots. They're just getting 2 ballots in the mail. Another thing that happened that he tweeted is that please remember he's going to lower Medicare premiums, not raise them. The Democrats like to say he's going to raise the cost or eliminate Medicare. No, he's planning on making it more affordable. I was shocked when I had a blood test done, and I was shocked at the price because I thought it was covered, and then I was shocked at the bill I got, and I didn't even go to the hospital. Pennsylvania's Supreme Court has also ruled that ballot harvesting is illegal, and that's a really good thing. So President Trump has obviously been able to get some good people on the court he's doing federal judges. These are the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, so that would be Pennsylvania judges. It would look like some of the people in Pennsylvania are beginning to wake up to what their Democrat governor is doing, and they're starting to push back and fight back, which is a good thing, and which is what we need to do. There are a lot of people who have signed on to this lawsuit against Governor DeWine in Ohio for this lockdown. And I heard today as well that Nashville has only had 22 cases of COVID in Nashville, the city of Nashville. And the city has been horrendously locked down. And this is since June. 22 cases since June, July, August, and September. 4 months, 22 cases. And the whole city's in lockdown. Things are closed, and the people are really upset because the numbers had been elevated, escalated, and lied about. So they're really upset about that. And then I also heard that the Secretary of State of Michigan, this is another tweet from President Trump, that the Secretary of State of Michigan misprinted the ballots that were sent to the military and had the wrong names. Instead of Mike Pence, it had an independent's name or some other party's name as the vice president. And so this is just, I'm not in favor of a lot of what goes on in Nashville. But, the lying that's going on with this disease, and I have to tell you right now, Larry's doctor is very worried about Larry getting COVID. And as sick as he is, he was saying, Mary Ellen, are you careful about where you go? Do you know that you haven't been exposed to it? And I said, Larry, I've left the house more running errands for him, running and getting him a milkshake at Sonic and, several days in a row, just because he's trying to kind of have to follow cravings in order to try and keep things down and not be throwing up so he can take his medication. Because if he throws it up, what a waste, right? Okay, get woke. If Obamagate is so real, why hasn't anyone been arrested? Okay, this is the frustration to us. We do not understand how slowly the wheels of government and justice turn. They have to have an airtight case before they can go and try to prosecute a high official, okay? That's one. The second thing is Trump, even though Trump has replaced a lot of federal judges across the country, he has not been able to replace the judges in Southern New York, the Southern New York District, or Washington, D.C. And so those are the places where all these political figures need to be. That's the court that has purview. And so until he can replace judges, remember, as soon as he's in office in his second term, he's allowed to fire all federal judges. And of course, he won't fire the ones he's already put in place, but he can fire all the others. Now, they will keep their salary. He can't take that away from them because it's a lifetime appointment, but he can take them from the bench, remove them from the bench, and put new people in. Now, it'll take a while before Congress approves all the new people, but that is the plan. And so we have to wait until January. The inauguration. Now they know that. Remember, the deep state knows what's legal, what he can legally do, and they are petrified that they're all going to end up, in big trouble. They know the trouble they're in. It was supposed to have all been swept under the rug. Don't forget, Scripture says in 1 Samuel, be sure your sins will find you out. And God is not going to punish a nation until they clearly understand the sin that has been committed in this nation. That's why we're hearing so much about the pedophilia. That's why we're seeing so much evil in the way of sexual immorality and witchcraft and the abortion, the murder of the children. That's number one on God's book. That he just at some point the blood crying out is just enough. And remember, the blood of the martyrs around the world are crying out to him. When is enough? It's time for justice. It's time for justice. And yes, God does say that all will be revealed. Yep. And complete insanity. A lot of insanity is demonic related. So we are in a spiritual war like this world has never known. Now, having grown up in a country where, 98% of the country came over from Africa, it was, there were Native Indians there. We call them Indians. The Carib Indians were in Jamaica, and 98% of that, they were all wiped out, either murdered or the diseases that came in with the immigrants killed them. But Jamaica was, when I was there, 98% black, and most of those were descendants of slaves from West Africa, and so they brought a lot of voodoo to the country. And so I was exposed to that and, was just very aware of the spiritual battle that can take over a nation. And when I think of the witchcraft going on in this country and the times that they get together to invoke an invitation to the demonic to grow in strength and power here. And don't forget, folks, fear gives way to the devil. That's why at least 365 times in Scripture it says, don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Because if God's people if we're giving into fear, we are empowering the devil. And that's the last thing we should be doing. We should be in the authority of Jesus Christ, because of the blood of Christ that gives us the authority. We should be rebuking and binding the demonic spirits. We should be binding the spirit of rage and anger and murder and rebellion, the spirit of rebellion. Oh my goodness, the spirit of rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. The sin of rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. In the old days, in Bible days, if there was a rebellious child, that rebellious child was stoned. And that put a stop to kids rebelling because they realized they were going to lose their life. They weren't going to get away with it. And we've got all these kids that have grown up without fathers, who haven't learned to be a man, whose moms are so busy working, trying to put food on the table and keep the kids alive, that she doesn't have the energy to teach these kids the right way to live. So, so many of these kids are living at home. So I'm sure they're thrilled to be paid to do whatever, because now they have money of their own because they're being paid. And don't forget, Larry said yesterday that 1/4 of the cash that Obama sent over to Iran has come back to fund Antifa and BLM. It's not just Soros paying for all that. It is our own tax dollars that are paying for our country's destruction. So I finished reading Isaiah. I read through several other books since then, and I started in Lamentation this week, and I wrote down some of the scripture that I had read the other day, and then I just went back and read it again. It says the roads mourn because no one can get together to celebrate. The priest or the pastors groan. And look what's happening. They can't do their job. Of course they're groaning. The maidens grieve and the country is in bitter anguish. Her foes have become her masters. And that's, if you listen to Dave Hodges today, what he's talking about, that he's been told is coming. I mean, Larry's telling us it's going to get worse. He doesn't want to freak us out and scare us like some of the other people are willing to do. But he has said he's never told people to buy a gun because he doesn't want you shooting it and missing your target and having it go in the window across the street. But he's now saying, you need to have a way to protect yourself. So, we've got to be praying Psalm 91 around our homes daily. Her foes have become her masters. Her enemies are at ease. So if our enemies are at ease, that means they're winning, because if they think that we've got one up on them, they won't be at ease. The Lord has brought her grief because of her many sins. All the splendor has departed. There was no one to help her. Her enemies looked at her and laughed at her destruction. Her fall was astounding. All her people groan as they search for bread. They barter their treasures for food to keep themselves alive. And I got a text this morning from somebody who's selling their last item of worth in their house, and they're wondering how they're going to buy food next month. From on high he set fire. He made me desolate, faint all day long. This is why I weep and my eyes overflow with tears. No one is near to comfort me, no one to restore my spirit. My children are destitute because the enemy has prevailed. It just, when I read through Scripture, I got to tell you, it just seems so incredibly current. And I feel very comforted by hanging to two things. Oh, there was let's see, wait a second. It's on the other page. So let me see. There was a verse here in Lamentations 1 that reminded me of Larry. Is it nothing to you, all you who pass by? Look around and see. Is any suffering like my suffering that was inflicted on me? I just, it would, to read that after having heard Larry today, it just, oh man, tell you what, talk about doing a number on your heart, I think of Isaiah, though, 54:17, no weapon formed against you will prosper, and God is going to accomplish his word. I read through Job after I finished Isaiah. It's one of the books I read after I finished Isaiah. I'm going to read some things from chapters 29 and 30. When I think of what we're going through, what so many of us are going through, I just thought Job was a good book to read. So Job is complaining, and he says, how I long for the months gone by, for the days when God watched over me. Oh, for the days when I was in my prime, when God's intimate friendship blessed my house, when my path was drenched with cream, and the rock poured out for me streams of olive oil. When I went to the gate of the city, of course, that's the place of power. That was where the political officials got together. I took my seat in the public square. The young men saw me and stepped aside, and the old men rose to their feet. There was a time when the young respected the elders. The chief men refrained from speaking and covered their mouths with their hands. The voices of the nobles were hushed. Their tongues stuck to the roof of their mouths. Whoever heard me spoke well of me, and those who saw me commended me, because I rescued the poor who cried for help and the fatherless who had none to assist him. So he's a generous man too. The man who was dying blessed me. I made the widow's heart sing. I put on righteousness as my clothing. Putting on, remember Ephesians 6 says, put on the whole armor of God. Here he says, I put on righteousness. Justice was my robe and my turban. So righteousness and justice were the clothing he wore, just like Ephesians 6 says to put on the armor of God. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. In other words, he's helping them. I was a father to the needy. I took up the case of the stranger. I broke the fangs of the wicked and snatched the victims from their teeth. My glory will remain fresh in me. Men listened to me expectantly, waiting in silence for my counsel. After I had spoken, they spoke no more. My words fell gently on their ears. They waited for me as for showers and drank in my words as the spring rain. When I smiled at them, they scarcely believed it. The light of my face was precious to them. I chose the way for them and sat as their chief. I dwelt as a king among his troops. I was like one who comforts the mourners. But now I'm in Job 30. But now they mock me, men younger than I, whose fathers I would have disdained to put with my sheepdogs. Of what use was the strength of their hands to me, since their vigor had gone from them? Haggard from want and hunger, they roamed the parched land and desolate wastelands at night. Now their sons mock me in song. I have become a byword among them. They detest me and keep their distance. They don't hesitate to spit in my face. Terrors overwhelm me. My dignity is driven away as by the wind. My safety vanishes like a cloud. Yet when I hoped for good, evil came. When I looked for light, then came darkness. The churning inside me never stops. Days of suffering confront me. And this made me think of Trump and all that he is going through. Like he said, he didn't need this job. He cared about America so badly, he felt he had to step in and do something because he could see things ebbing away. Now, whether he stepped in soon enough, I don't know. And remember, folks, the siege on the White House is supposed to begin today. So I hope you are praying. There is a national call to prayer at 7 Eastern and at 9 Eastern every day. The one at 7 Eastern is to pray for Trump's safety. The one at 9 is to pray for Trump and his leadership and for our country and for God to rule. Yes, I know we need to forgive, and it is extremely hard, but it is a command. But I'm going to say, just like when I realized the command to give thanks and everything, it doesn't say there to be thankful. It says to give thanks. And forgiveness can be something you choose to do, even if you don't feel forgiving. What I had to do, it took me several years to work through this, but there was a time when I had to go through forgiveness. And, it kept coming up. I had to start over, and I chose to forgive. And every day, the beginning was every 5 minutes, literally, and every 10 minutes, and then, every week and every month. And, now it still has to come up, and I have to go through the steps again. But I choose to forgive. And little by little, the hurt that was associated with the offense, although it's part of my story, it doesn't hurt as badly to tell it. Every once in a while it will, but most of the time it's just part of my story. The forgiveness is complete, and I can talk about what happened without feeling the anger and the angst and the unforgiveness. And if I do feel it, then I have to work through the steps again of choosing to forgive. I know Larry has talked about he realizes God has forgiven him, and he's been working very hard at forgiving himself. And for crying out loud, folks, it's been 30 some years since he parted ways with the Clintons. And even with all the things that he did, he was such an incredible leader in the military. He had such insight. He saved a whole, I don't know if it was a battalion or what, because he stood up against his supervisor, and who ended up calling somebody higher up who said, listen to Nichols, he knows what he's doing, and he will save your men, do what he said. And come to find out, if they had followed Larry's supervisor, all the men would have died. Because they did what Larry suggested, all of them lived. So, he has an incredible ability to strategize and think and process through things. God's given him a very unusual brain. I love watching it at work, when we listen to him on the program. And occasionally when I get to hear him processing before the show he's processing what he wants to talk about. And that's rare, but I know I'm not the only one who's gotten a chance to hear that. But the few times that I've heard it, I just find it very fascinating to watch his brain work. Um, he just does it on. It just comes naturally to him, and he doesn't have to sit and plan a whole lot. It just he doesn't take notes for the show. He just talks. God has given him an incredible gift, and God knows how badly we need him, and so we just have to keep him in prayer and give whatever you can, folks. Give whatever you can. I mean, I'm gonna buy this. The thought of buying something that expensive, he's got to have it. We've got to try. He has to try anything he can to try and build up a little bit of strength. He had a physical therapist coming, and his occupational therapist said he had achieved as much as they could take to him. Well, now he can't even, when he left the hospital, he was able to climb stairs a little bit. Now he can't even, he's not supposed to step up the 4-inch step he's got in his living room. And so he talked about having the machine outside, and I said, well, you can't do that because you can't step down. He says, well, we'll just have to build a ramp outside. It's like, all right, if you need me to come build that for you, I know how to do it. So I may be called upon. He's very worried. So people who have been bringing him things are no longer going to be able to do that. So I know I wasn't the only one, but he tries not to run his wife ragged, and has a couple other people that help pick up meds and things like that. I was there to help take some stuff into the house when it was delivered the other day, and then his wife came home before the delivery arrived, so she was able to beat the delivery man. So anyhow, folks, do what you can for Larry. His PayPal account, I forgot to put that up. His PayPal account is nicholslive@aol.com. You can also go to Nichols Live, and that gives you other alternatives. You've got his address on nicholslive.com, the website, his address to send cash in the mail. If you are going to send a check, you have to make the check out in my name. You cannot make it in Larry's name because he has no way to cash a check. I can cash checks and take him the cash. So if the check is made out to me, I can do that. We can do Zelle. I understand there's a way to directly go from email into my bank account, but I haven't talked to the bank about how to do that yet. So I need to get to the bank and figure that out, and I'm probably going to stop and do that on my way out the door right now. Let's see, I said Zelle. We can do Western Union. We can do Walmart to Walmart. Larry used to have to pay somebody to go pick up a Western Union or Walmart, and he doesn't have to pay me to do that now. So I'm willing to go run and do that. So you can send a smaller amount. Now they do charge a fee, so PayPal is cheaper than the Walmart to Walmart or Western Union fee. Of course, the cheapest way is to send cash or send a check, but that takes time. The PayPal gets to him within 3 minutes of your doing it. So that's the easiest. So please do anything you can. And I'm sorry I have to keep begging, but those bills keep stacking up. And I'm not asking you to help me pay for the total gym, but it's going to be a bit of a hardship on me to figure that one out. But if it'll help, then we'll do it. And then if it doesn't work, then I'll come back to you and say, if anybody wants to buy one, we'll figure this out. Help me sell it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Hopefully Larry can be back tomorrow. We'll see. And I'm sorry I had his picture up. He said he would call in if he could. Thank you, Helen. I appreciate that. He said he'd call if he could. So since I left his picture up rather than redoing it. So anyhow, weeping may endure for a season, but joy comes, or joy endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. I am looking forward to some times of joy. That's for sure. So, all right, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye. We'll talk tomorrow.